Hello and welcome to The Nation Jendela. I'm Elaine Noor Abdullah. Now, in the race to digitalization, infrastructure remains a major challenge to achieving widespread connectivity in the country. So the Jalinan Digital Negara Jendela Action Plan announced by the Prime Minister of Malaysia, Yang Amat Berhormat Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin, in 2020 will be the platform to achieve these aspirations by accelerating the country's digital connectivity through widespread deployment of mobile, fibre and fixed wireless access, and thus paving the way to 5G under the 12th Malaysia Plan. Now, telecommunications operators and the industry as a whole have given their full commitment to partner with the government and MCMC and make connectivity a basic utility to fast-track Malaysia's transition into a high-income digital society. And today, we have the pleasure of having Telekom Malaysia Berhad's Group Chief Executive Officer, Imri Mohtar, to speak to us about TM's contributions towards the Jendela. Now, hello Imri, welcome to the studio.
Hello Elaine, thank you for having me here today.
Today is Pongal as well, so happy Pongal.
All right, happy Pongal to all our viewers.
Yes, that's right. Now, let's start with a little bit of some background. Let's sort of set the stage.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate a little about TM's involvement, initiatives, as well as achievements in realizing what we call the Pelan Tindakan Jalinan Digital Negara, or Jendela, Imri?
All right, sure. So, Jendela, as you had mentioned, is the government's digital connectivity blueprint to connect Malaysians. Through internet and so forth, through whether it's mobile, whether it's through the internet, the fixed broadband and so forth. And there are several targets, right? The target in terms of expanding the mobile coverage,
right,
as well as expanding the fiber broadband coverage as well.
Right.
And today, the focus for TM's role is very much on the fiber broadband, right, on the fixed broadband. So that's the area that the TM will be contributing towards the Jendela plan to expand and the rollout of the fiber so that more Malaysians can enjoy faster and better connectivity through the fiber broadband.
Now, at the end of the day, it is about fiber penetration within society, because at the end of the day, we want to have fast internet access. We want to have that quality of life, right? In order for us to be able to, when we watch movies, we see certain things, it's like, oh, that's so cool. Can we have that? So I think that's the aspiration. But I think not a lot of us realize the amount of work that goes into creating those kind of opportunities for us to live in this sort of digital futuristic world that we imagine and we see in movies. So how far off are we really in terms of real world terms?
All right. So just to give a bit of flavor and context to that, right? Under the Jendela plan, right, the aspiration or the target, right, by 2022 is to connect up to 7.5 million premises, and most of these are residential premises.
Where are we right now, as in?
Today, where we're at the end of 2020, we're about at 5 million.
5 million?
5 million premises. So over the next... But that's still a bit more of work to do, right? Because the total premises that we have is 9 million in the country. Right?
Okay, so we have a total of 9 million premises. So far we're covered about 5. So that's about almost more than half.
Yes, that's about 55%.
Right.
And under Jendela, right up till 2022, is to fiberize another
1.5.
2.5.
2.5, sorry.
Yeah.
My math.
To bring it to 7.5, and that should be about 83%. Right?
So 83% coverage
will
of
be
fiber premises, right?
And you're absolutely right, because now, since last year, 2020, we see a lot more of that usage concentration is at home. Yeah, it's at the residential, right? That is where parents used to go, to do work, work from home.
Kids
are going to school, right? There's online learning as well, and even businesses, right? They're doing their businesses online through social media and so forth.
Not to mention entertainment.
And on a personal basis, for you to just kick back and kick off your shoes and lean back, of course, that's entertainment, right? That's the video and so forth. So the demand for faster, for more stable internet connectivity, as you had mentioned, is on the rise. So it's about then really accelerating the fiber connectivity to households in Malaysia.
Well, what I want to know is what were the trends, or what did you see in 2020? Because there would have been severe lapses in service because of the focus of the usage. A lot of usage used to be concentrated in business area, economy areas, and suddenly that huge demand is coming from the residential area. And I know it happened to me because we are in MCO right now, right? So during the first MCO was the worst because nobody had expectations, didn't know what was going to happen, didn't know what to do. Everybody just got redirected home, and suddenly you can't even do work because the connectivity is so far off your basic requirements for work.
You're absolutely right, because what we saw last year from our experience was that there was a shift from the business areas of traffic concentration from the business area to the residential area, and also not just the shift, but also the volume, right, of usage, of data that's been consumed. For TM, it went up more than 40%. But this is where I think through the continuous network optimization program that TM does, alhamdulillah, we could manage with the surge of traffic last year.
Perhaps we can give a little bit of an overview or background to viewers out there. Because everybody says, oh, why isn't there coverage here? Why isn't there any reach of the fiber in my area? What does it take for you to start providing those services in that area? What's the timeline like? What's the investment like? Is there something that you can share with us so that as a general civilian, we understand what goes into all that, and it takes time. That's right. Yeah.
So in terms of the plan for Jendela, as I mentioned, it's about another 2.5 million.
Correct.
Right? That needs of premises needs to be rolled out, and that is not just only the commitment of TM, but also some of the other telcos as well.
So they're working in partnership together.
That's right. And Jendela, this digital infrastructure blueprint is as integrated and consolidated plan that was developed and committed together by the industry, right, to ensure that there's no overlaps of investments and so forth. Yeah,
we have to pool resources right now.
Absolutely, right. It's really about pooling and resources in terms of investment, in terms of some of the infrastructure as well, right. What does it take? It is, I think, for the benefit of the viewers, to roll out a mobile coverage is different, say, than a fixed broadband coverage. Right. There's a lot more work that needs to be done. The civil works that needs to be done. Laying the lines. For example, to the condominium or apartment that you're staying, or to the housing area that you're staying. I think
as opposed to a mobile, which is like a tower.
Absolutely. Right. Okay. So because it needs to extend beyond that. Right. So what I just mentioned just now would be the same for, say, for a fixed broadband plus also a mobile, right? But the difference with the fixed broadband then is to pool each of those lines to each of the homes.
The individual
premises and so forth. So it's a bit more work that needs to be done. And this was some of the challenges that we face, right?
So what are these challenges in terms of, is it because of accessibility? Is it because of approvals, permits? What kind of challenges, creates that delay in terms of your implementation delivery?
Yeah. From our experience in 2020, certainly with the movement control, that had presented a challenge. But now, as we know, there's much more greater clarity provided by the government, where telecommunications is an essential service, which still allows us to do what's needed, to roll out the infrastructure, to install a service and so forth. So for 2021 onwards, we don't foresee that as a speed bump, as what we had faced initially in 2020. I think that's one. Secondly, the challenge, you had briefly mentioned it just now, was the approval. We need approval from the local authority before any civil work could start, right? It was a challenge before, but on this point, I would really have to acknowledge and thank MCMC, right, whom are really taking the lead, engaging the state governments, the various councils, so forth. And in the implementation of Jendela, we do have this implementation steering com every 2 weeks, right? And that's the forum where service providers like TM and others could also highlight or escalate what are the challenges we face, and assistance would be provided by MCMC as much as they can. So
MCMC did say that the pitting competition, state versus state, those state has already come on board. Are you coming on board? That's what it is.
Yeah. So that's and that's a continuous engagement that I think kudos to MCMC, right? On that continuous engagement, because the whole intent of Jendela, of providing this connectivity, regardless whether it's with a mobile, fixed, and whatever technology, is to really benefit the Rakyat, right?
Yes.
Whether it's society, businesses, and so forth. So,
and on that front, I think MCMC pointed out that they are trying to make this a third utility in order to make it a must for you to be able to create. So then it becomes a necessity. It's no longer a nice to have, because it is.
And let's ask, to your point then, let's ask ourselves this question, right? Isn't internet connectivity an oxygen to us today?
It is.
So you.
I think COVID really sort of bumped up, sort of like if you're looking at the forum, like it's seriously bumped up the realization. It's not as if we didn't need it before. It's just that the realization that it became so imperative that, like you said, it's like oxygen. It's like something that if you don't have, you aren't able to conduct your daily life. It really pushes the necessity, and I did mention this before when we were in previous conversations with MCMC, how important it was for us to do this, whether you had the funds for it or not. It is now an imperative to push it forward. So with that, we'll take a short breather. When we come back, we will check in on some of the ways for us to navigate these roadblocks that you're facing in order for us to facilitate the outcome for that digital future that we expect from Malaysia.
Sounds great.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back after these messages.
Muthu is a senior citizen living in the suburbs. At home, he spends a lot of time online connecting with his grandchildren who live in the city. When Muthu goes downstairs to get a recipe from his wife, the internet access is disrupted and his video call is cut off. Introducing Jendela, a government initiative to improve Malaysia's communications infrastructure and broadband coverage. This move will reduce the digital divide and enable cities, suburbs, and rural areas to receive better quality broadband services. Jendela will be rolled out in phases and will involve the improvement, expansion, and connectivity of high-speed coverage. This will ensure widespread coverage and connectivity nationwide. Malaysians will be able to access high-speed fixed and mobile broadband throughout the country. Additionally, all fiber service providers will continue to lend their support by upgrading their network capacity and deploying more base stations to meet the increase in 4G and 5G traffic. This will pave the way for future technology adoptions such as wireless and fixed wireless access and 5G to achieve the country's digital agenda. With Jendela increasing the reach of fiber optic services, Muthu can upgrade his internet services and get the latest internet hardware such as mesh Wi-Fi. He will be able to serve the internet anywhere in his house without any service disruption. This digital transformation will raise the people's economic status and advance the country's socio-economy progress.
Hello, welcome back on The Nation Jendela with me, Elena Abdullah, and I have the pleasure of speaking to Imri Mohtar. He is, of course, the CEO of TM. Imri, we, I think, had a really good start with regards to looking at how TM's contributions towards making Jendela a reality, and that reality is going to help put Malaysia on the digital map in order for us to compete globally as well. So let's talk about this digital divide. You know, it cannot be on only in urban and city areas that we are going to be able to compete globally. Now, everybody is requiring that access for us to be able to live. So. The digital gap, how do we address this? What are the initiatives implemented by TM to reduce that digital gap? And what are the required technologies as we work towards, of course, getting ready for 5G in the process?
All right, okay. So let's speak on that first point that you mentioned on the digital divide, right? So under the plan of Jendela, it's about providing connectivity to all premises, the all 9 million premises. So there are plans and commitment to deliver the fiber internet right up to 7.5 million premises.
Yep.
But I'm sure the question the viewers will be asking, hey, what about the balance 1.5, right?
Yes.
So it will be connected as well. But certainly we need to balance it in terms of the cost for the country,
Yep.
right? It would not be feasible for us to roll out fiber, as you would appreciate, to the more rural or remote areas of the country.
Yep.
But we do have technologies, alternative technologies that would be that's available, that will provide a much more higher internet connectivity than what they are enjoying today, right?
So
and
what
this
is
will
this?
be more the fixed wireless access
That's right.
and
Was
so
about
for
to ask.
alternatives.
Right. So, even if, for example, if you're out in the sticks, in the rural areas,
Yes.
and you aren't able to get a fiberized line right to your house, which might be like a couple of kilometers out of the nearest town. Sometimes there's also plans for alternative technologies to reach those homes via FWA. Is that right?
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. And so it's really about providing a much more better, more stable, and much more faster connectivity. And it's important, right? And one example that I would like to share with our viewers today is that by being connected, it allows an opportunity for them to uplift their livelihood in terms of their earnings, for example. And
Correct.
this is where a lot of other programs that other government agencies have done, in terms of training for some of the village entrepreneurs, right, to go online. And there's an example, there's this one entrepreneur in Kuala Lipis, right, through the tutorial, just to put her product, her crackers, her crepe, right, on Shopee, right, her earnings jumped from 280 ringgit per month to about 3,000 a month.
Wow,
right?
that's a huge difference in terms of the change of her lifestyle.
It's really the multiplier effect of what this connectivity through Jendela enables, right?
Now, you did say, asking the question of what can users do in the long run, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, so it's
it's education.
It's more of
educating ourselves,
education,
right?
Because that also is another challenge, I have to say, right? When things don't go quite right, right? The first thing that crosses the mind as a consumer, right, is that it's my service provider, right?
Yes.
But there are several elements that is within the domain of the service provider, but there are also elements that's within the domain of the consumer themselves. For example, the connectivity to your home, for example, that's certainly the responsibility, accountability of the service provider. The equipment, the Wi-Fi equipment, for example, that's the service provider. But then it moves into the domain of the consumer, which is your device that you use. Is it your smartphone? Is it your laptop? If the software is not updated, upgraded, it will affect your browsing experience.
So we need to increase the literacy of Malaysians in terms of being online, using the digital services, using the latest technologies and software to serve you, as opposed to being dependent on the service provider to. I mean, I've read this before. You may have the service coming in, but if your router isn't able to convert that, your laptop cannot maximize the utility of that service, you're not getting the benefits of that in the long run.
So the device is important, right? So is the need for consumers to constantly update their device, right, on terms of the software and so forth?
It costs money, Emery. Essentially that's a conversation that the people will be having. It costs money. So how do we then navigate that? Because part of this Jendela move towards 5G as well requires or is closing or sunsetting 3G in the long run. So how would that affect people as a whole? Yeah.
So as the technology evolve, right, as we move towards 5G, we do need to sunset some of the other older technologies. I mean, like, for example, we've seen that in our daily office lives, for example, how fax, right, for example, has already been sunset and so forth. And it's a natural evolution of that, right? So and soon it will be the turn of 3G, right?
Because we need those bandwidth and releasing of those resources.
Absolutely,
right?
Absolutely. And to a point that you had raised just now at the start of this session which was 5G, right? What the plans, right, that we have set for Jendela up to 2022 is going to be a critical foundation for 5G, right? So if I can elaborate a bit on that.
Yeah, so I do want to refocus on that with regards to with Jendela's implementation, because it will take up resources for the industry as well as, I mean, not just TM itself, but the industry to be able to reach out to all these areas. How does that either dampen the speed of launching 5G for TM specifically then?
Right. I wouldn't say that it would slow down or anything, right? Because I'm sure that has been some of the question that has been asked of TM, right? As well as other service providers, right? Where in truth, Jendela will establish a strong foundation, right? The building block before we shift to 5G.
Right.
What does it mean? What do I mean by that? Is that part of the target for Jendela is to increase the coverage of 4G, right? As well as the speed and the capacity, and a lot of the future evolution to 5G, could be reutilized from the investment that's being done today under Jendela for 4G. That's one. So, and secondly, as we expand more fiber throughout the whole country, the towers that you'll see for mobile would require it to be connected with fiber.
Right.
Especially when we go into 5G. Right. So it's really, these are two jigsaw pieces that if you like, right, that would be the building block that would enable a more seamless transition as we move into 5G in the near future.
It sounds like a monumental task at this point.
Exciting, challenging, but
because it's geographical in nature how we're managing this, because there are I mean it's God's land, right? So essentially there are mountains, there's ditches. It's not as simple as putting a tower there and everything's going to happen. There are challenges to navigate, real world situations that we may not have foreseen that may delay certain things. So in this process, in the last, 2020, and we're now in 2021. 2020 was a year of a lot of realizations, a lot of new shifts, a lot of forced but necessary refocus on what's priority. So as we move forward, what are TM's priorities moving forward?
It's with regards to enhancing the connectivity, right, throughout our various customer segments, and that's via fiber, and that's also via mobile and so forth, right? But it's beyond that, right? As I mentioned, it's what it enables that is going to be more critical. So our priority is also to enable various solutions for our customers, whether it's for home customers, for business customers, or even for government. That's the next wave of technology. We're talking about cloud and so forth. So those would be the priority of one, accelerating the connectivity, and after that, the various solutions that sits on top of that will enable, I would say, a more digital Malaysia and make life and work better for all Malaysians. So
perhaps if we could get a little bit of overview, because we were talking about fiber, we were talking about mobile, but there's also fixed broadband, yes?
Well, fixed broadband is fiber.
It's part of fiber.
It's part of fiber.
Okay.
That's right.
So all this will be connected, or the plan is, with the Jendela plan, we are trying to connect the pieces, connect the dots, in order for us to prepare for 5G, or the platform for us to be able to launch 5G. What are the realistic outcomes in terms of real world quality of experience that we'll be able to see with this move in that direction?
Right. Certainly, in terms of if you were to look at 5G, for example, right? The industry, including TM, we have started to provide to develop the 5G showcase, right? Demonstration showcases, right? We started it in Langkawi, and it's we're having that in the several other states as well, so that the public would have an idea, right, on what 5G, for example, would be able to enable, right? So a lot of this may sound a bit futuristic at the moment, but
we're in a good place. We're getting there, and we're
Exactly.
moving towards that. Unfortunately, we've come to the end of this section. Thank you so much, Imri, for sharing that with us. We
pleasure.
wish TM all the, well, not luck, but it's hard work, and we hope that it will be able to be rolled out in the necessary way, with the necessary approvals, with the necessary cooperation and support of the all the people involved. And in closing, I thank you so much for giving us a glimpse into that future, Imri.
Thank you.
Now, Jendela's aspirations to build a stronger digital future for Malaysia. Now, the COVID pandemic has triggered an urgency for us as Malaysians to address this new normal and cater for future demands of connectivity. Now, the economy and people's livelihoods, whether it's education, business opportunities, building and connecting communities, are important. So to prepare for the future and to fulfill our digital Malaysia aspirations, it is clear the industry must aspire to enable everyone on this journey. As we look forward to the delivery of a seamless connection for all Malaysians, we must take stock of how we as individuals can in turn play our part to making this a reality. Thank you for watching The Nation Jendela with me, Elaine Abdullah. Catch us every week as we open more windows into a digital Malaysia. Bye for now.